Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that you joined us today. And I'm Mike Thompson, the host of The Father Show. And I'm so happy to have you here with us today. We've got a fantastic show for you today. But before I go on, I want to remind you to subscribe and like and also hit that notification bell so every time we upload a show, which is once a week, that you won't miss one and you will get the next episode. So go ahead and subscribe. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe there. It's just The Father Show with Mike Thompson. All right. So today we've got Tonya Coover, and Tonya is a therapist, and she's a family therapist and a wellness advocate. And I'm so glad to have her on the show today. She is going to give us some great information. And I know from our conversation before the show starts, she was giving me some great ideas. So I want you to welcome Tonya Coover, and to the show. Tonya, how you doing here?
Great. How are you doing?
I can't complain whatsoever. Everything is going well. Yeah. Yeah. And how
Great.
things up
I'm glad to
east?
be here.
Well, good.
Well,
Glad
they're
to have.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. The fall is my favorite season, of course, and so we tend to know that winter's coming, so it's a great time to get our mental and emotional health in order so that we can have a nice little winter hibernation. So
Yeah.
it's a good time to go inward.
Yeah. So have you had snow yet?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
We've had some frost, had some of that stuff, but
Yeah.
no white stuff yet.
Because Denver's already getting it.
I know. I've got a friend there that's they can get all four seasons in the blink of an eye in those types of
Yep.
areas.
That's it. All in the same day. You can start out
Yep.
sunny and look up and you can have a foot of snow.
Exactly. So you always have to be prepared and not have an umbrella and gloves.
The umbrella, gloves, mittens, blanket in the back, shovel in the back, some chains if you live
Exactly.
up in the mountains or close to it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you have to pack your
Yep.
trunk. You might even want to throw a couple of
That's right.
canned goods in the back to go along with it, just in case you get stuck.
Exactly. Never hurts.
Yeah,
Never hurts to be prepared.
but New York is your area is much worse than Denver.
Well, it can be. It can be, absolutely. It's unpredictable, and one of the things we're definitely learning is Mother Nature is in control. So you just
Yep.
gotta look outside, see what she's dealing you, and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So today we're going to be, we are talking about family therapy, and I know before we came on the air, we were talking about, men making sure they kept their masculinity in the face of their wife or their spouse, and how hard that can be. And with this COVID-19, people being locked up. Uh, and have you seen a lot of, yeah, I know you talk to a lot of women, but have you seen a lot of women coming in and saying that their marriage is on the brinks of ending because of, the COVID-19 and being cooped up in the house?
Yeah, when you take that amount of pressure and you put it in a container that doesn't have anywhere else for it to go, like we don't have our normal outlets to process all the emotion, it comes out sideways, kind of like holding a beach ball underwater. Have you ever tried to do that?
That's true.
And it's
Yeah.
next to impossible, and it shoots out unpredictably one way or another. And that's definitely what we're seeing in relationships, in our households,
Yeah.
because it's pressure. There's pressure added to the situation.
So you'll see that really in both husband and wives, right?
Yes, absolutely. The incidence of domestic violence has just skyrocketed. We're seeing a ton of that. And then, of course, alcohol, drug abuse, and even some of the more silent, private behaviors, such as the use of pornography and internet gambling, is rising very intensely. People just are looking for ways to deal with their emotions and being locked in.
Yeah, because I know it's got to be, and it's sad to say, but I know some guys, when they go to work, that's their time away from the wife and they're happy. So now that you have to stay home and see her all day, yeah, I'm trying to clean it up now. But you gotta see her all day. You're around her all day, 24/7. Makes it hard to get that out. And we've talked about on the show how you can go to the gym and do your exercise, and that help you get rid of a lot of that stress. But you can't go to the gym. So you have that stress that's building up, and like you said, that's just like a beach ball underwater, and it's gonna come up.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
where it's gonna come up.
Absolutely. And we know that it comes out one of two ways. So we really express and release through either sweat or tears. Of course, women are much more comfortable with tears. Men sweat it out. And when you don't have those modes to do that, it can be extremely difficult for men to find a way to process all of that emotion and stress.
Okay.
So, and you add kids there too, because not just the wives and the girlfriends that are home, it's also a lot of the kiddos. So we definitely have a dynamic that we've never seen. So
Yeah.
we have to think outside the box to find new ways to cope and really process through the emotion and frustrations and issues that a lot of times we could run from, whether it was to work or to the gym or, to the golf course or to fishing. Some of those avenues are coming back and of becoming available, but we really do have to find new ways to take care of ourselves and allow ourselves to be able to show up in those relationships in healthy ways.
Yeah. And I would think that, with the kids and, having to stay home, now going school, at home, and that's got to be stressful on you as well, because depending on the age of your kids, you have to be present and watch your kids through the whole day of them being in school.
Yep, that is an added dimension that, again, we've never been faced with.
Yeah.
Typically people who homeschooled were signing up for that intentionally and they were choosing that. And now it's something that's being enforced, understandably so.
Yeah.
But people looked forward to when those kiddos went back to school.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and now we have it looking completely different. So it
Yeah.
is a challenge for people.
Yeah. I know I was a single dad, and I knew it was great, just the different dynamics of saying, okay, now you go to school, I can go to work, and I don't have to worry about you being at home and what you're doing. You can go to school, I know you're safe, and then I can come pick you up after work and, take you home. But if you have to be there all day, and a lot of people have to give up their job so that they can, stay home. And I
Yeah.
know my one of my family members has my sister doing their kids' schoolwork, and so that she can, the mom can still go to work every day. So you have to find different avenues to
Yep.
make it all work.
Yes, absolutely. And we have to work together, and that becomes difficult when we don't feel like we're on the same team.
Yeah. Now,
We do have to have a collaborative mindset.
and you mentioned that, being on the same team and collaborating and talking about it. And I know men, we don't really generally like to talk. And I'm not one. I will, when I get upset, when I have something on my mind, I shut up. I go inward. I don't go outward. So, is there some suggestions that you can give to men to help them talk but not lose their masculinity at the same time?
Absolutely. I think the key is we do know that men are not nearly as verbal as women. So women use a lot more words a day. We're very relational. And men tend to use most of their words when they are at work. So when they come home, they want to listen, which is actually a testosterone producing activity. For men to listen builds testosterone. And for men, testosterone is what counteracts cortisol, the stress hormone. So for them to come home and listen to their wife about their day actually helps men to process the cortisol and stress from their day. But when we're under the same roof, men sharing and talking actually produces estrogen for them, just like it does in women. It produces estrogen to talk and share, but estrogen doesn't counteract cortisol for men. So therefore, they don't feel relief from it. In fact, they can feel more stressed with talking and sharing. So one of the main things I say to men is when you are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, you do need that alone time before you can share. So going into that man cave, going and doing some problem solving, going into the garage or your basement and fixing something actually will increase your testosterone and counteract that cortisol so that you're more balanced before you engage in talking with your partner or your wife. Because you really do have to take care of your own stress first. It won't help if those systems aren't balanced. So going inward is the right thing. It's just incomplete. You need to,
Yeah.
after you've got that time where you're like, okay, I'm good. I've got my stress back more manageable. Then we can go into the dining room and sit and ask your wife, what happened in their day. Now, that is as long as the wife isn't nagging and complaining and talking about the man or what
Mm-hmm.
they didn't do, because that, of
Mm-hmm.
course, again, won't lower the estrogen and the testosterone won't balance it. But it is important for men to listen. So learning actually how to ask good questions really will rebalance some of those hormones. And that needs to happen because our hormones work with our neurotransmitters.
Okay.
And men are all about testosterone and dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
So climb the mountain, build the castle, defeat the battle, whatever. We need those really to be more elevated for men. When we get those roles a little bit more reversed as they are right now, with men being in the home much more than they're used to,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important that they do testosterone producing activities. Go for a drive. Men,
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the best things men can do is to go for a drive. It creates so much testosterone and it really does help them to deal with their cortisol levels. Then
Okay.
we can show up for our partners and have some conversation if there's things we need to deal with or talk about.
Yeah. Because I know it's hard and like I said, I'm one of those introverts as well. I'm going to keep it in because one reason I don't want to say something that I'm going to regret. So I'm going to not say anything until I figured it out in my head exactly what I want to say, how I want to say it. And then it may express it to you. Now, I'm not even
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you I'm going to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But how can, I know with men, a lot of times we are very careful, and sometimes we have to be about making sure our spouse, our wife, doesn't look at us less than who we are, less than a man, less than the provider of the house, and that doesn't mean you have to be the breadwinner, uh, but it does mean that you still have to be the head of the household. And how can men keep that masculinity and still express themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a common issue because we as women want our men to be emotionally available and vulnerable with us. but not too vulnerable. We don't want you to fall off that white horse so that you can still save us. So it puts men in this binding situation of how to be open and how to share without losing that sense of leadership and strength that really is important for the family unit. One of the things I tell men that I work with is that intimacy, specifically, I say, is into me, you see. So with that, there has to be allowance. You can't see what's going on within me if I'm not opening and sharing it with you. There has to, of course, be a safe container for that. So women need to be able to listen, and that's where the family therapy can really help to work on both sides of that coin. But in general, men have to initiate that process. And I suggest that they do that by, first of all, checking to see if it's a good time. Timing is everything. If a woman, their spouse is multitasking and getting dinner ready and trying to get the kids cleaned up and whatever, it's probably not going to be a real good time for her to give you your undivided attention. I always say, if you have my eyes, you have my heart. So first and foremost is we need to put these things down, these device little handy dandy things down, so that we can give each other our eyes and therefore allow that space to looking into each other. So it's timing first, and I usually suggest, hey, is there a good time that we can talk? I have some things I want to share with you. Now, when men hear that from women, they typically go, ugh. Like, can we talk is probably one of the biggest triggers for a man.
Right.
But for women, it's very different. You've got her in that moment. She hears you want to share something with her. She's going to do everything in her power to get it so that she can give you your attention. And
But it's
then
going to
at
be
that
hard.
point,
I'm sorry, but it's going to be
depends.
hard for you to get a man to say, "Hey, baby, I need to talk to you. We need to sit down and discuss this." Is there, would you say? Let me just ask you that. Would you say that would be the case?
It is hard because it's different. And
Yeah.
one of the things I tell people, change is difficult. It's just plain hard. Doing something different has to be intentional. So if you think you're just going to stumble into it, that's not going to happen. I teach people to have a specific way that feels like them to say that. Like if
Okay.
it's, hey, baby, do you have a couple minutes? Then that works. Practice it. Say it, because it's not going to come out naturally. Again, that's change right there. Just
Yeah.
saying, hey, baby, can we talk, is typically very different. So it takes practice. And if you have one phrase that you use, it really does teach your brain that we're going to do something different now. So it can be prepared to know that, okay, there's probably going to be some anxiety. There's probably going to be some nervousness, some feelings that come up there. We have two choices in those moments. Either we lean into them or we run from them. So there's lots of tools, from tapping, which is one of the tools I love using with men because it really does use those acupressure points, and it does help reprogram.
So what do you
There's
mean by
even,
tapping?
so tapping actually goes and accesses our hind and midbrain versus our prefrontal cortex, which is our most recently developed part of our brain. So our hind brain is reptilian. If you look into a reptile's eyes, it's cold. You know what I mean? You don't get a lot of connection and warm fuzzies because that reptilian part is the oldest part of our brain. Now, mammals, as we've evolved into mammals, we develop the midbrain. That's when you look at an animal or a dolphin or a whale where you actually think, oh my gosh, I have a connection. We're feeling something. There's more there. That's that midbrain. And actually, that's what we're accessing when we tap. And so it uses the pressure points that they would use in acupuncture. And you actually just start with the front of your karate chop, where you would karate chop, this point right here, and you would just tap. And you say, many different things, but I typically start with, I am safe, I am loved, whatever, I can do this, which is hard for men to say in general, a lot of times, because they don't want to question whether they're safe. But remember, it's not your reasoning. It's not the part of your brain that's rational. It's the part back further. The part
So
that says, I either want to eat this person, mate with this person, or kill this person. Those are the only three options when we're in that part of our brain.
so that's, and you're using, is that part of the brain that you use when you say, when you're doing I am affirmations?
Well, it's the midbrain and the forebrain are with the I am
Okay.
affirmations. But
Okay.
when you add the tapping, think about when your dog or an animal that you have gets upset. What do? We pet them. If we just talk to them without petting them, they don't calm down.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's that midbrain that's before language.
Okay.
So the tapping actually allows for that programming with those I am statements. If
Okay.
you combine those, it's powerful.
Now, women have, and each woman has their definition of what a man, their ideal of what a man is. How can a husband or a man know exactly what his woman think an ideal man is?
Well, it's always best, I say, to be curious instead of furious. So asking questions. Just like you are so great, you're doing a wonderful job of asking questions. Men will, if they will just ask that, ask, but you got to be ready for the answers, too. If you open up and ask a question, my big thing is I don't ask a question if any answer isn't okay.
Yeah.
And I tell my partner that as well. Hey, baby, I have this question, and any answer's okay. Because a lot of times women don't do that with men. We
Mm-hmm.
don't really give them permission to tell their truth. And it's very
Mm-hmm.
important that we do allow whatever your answer is okay. I'm not asking this question to get my answer. I really am seeking to know your truth. So
Yeah.
if a man asks a woman that, I do think it's important for them to say or allow, any answer's okay. I really want to know your heart. I really want to know what you think. And
And
then women will open up.
yeah, and see, and I personally, I think that's a question that you should be asking before you even say I do. Because you really need to know what her expectations of you is before you just letting your heart lead the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's oftentimes the problems we get into is that we haven't really truly been our real self prior to getting deep into those commitments and
Mm-hmm.
relationships. And then once it's done, you really let who you really are show, and it can feel like, ooh, kind of like when a woman takes off her eyelashes and her nails and her extensions and all of that, then you really see that this is the real woman. We also do that emotionally and mentally. We present our best self or what we think the other person wants rather than
Yeah,
truly being who we are.
yeah. And I know I see that so many times with women, especially with the makeup and the extensions and, all these other products that the world put out there for women. They
Hmm.
got you.
Hmm. And then
But
it's like, who is this?
yeah, and because I always said when I was single and younger, I always said, see, I want to know what I'm gonna roll over to. I don't want you, showing me one thing and then I roll over in the morning. It's like, oh my God, what in the heck was that? So, and that's even not just the outside, but also the inside. I don't
Yes.
want you to, give me all this sweet, calm, cool woman, and then, once you say I do, you become this other person altogether. And I know this happened with men as well. So trust me, ladies, I'm not just saying this you guys. We do it too. But this is a man show, so we're gonna talk
Hmm.
about y'all.
Yeah. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
got
and
to be something that you
yeah.
do.
I think it's just really important to know that we're enough exactly how we are. Again, it comes down to knowing thyself, because if you don't really know who you are, then you can't really present who you are. And in this world where we have so much online dating and apps and swiping, it's really easy to put a front of who you think other people want you to be. But you won't attract a person who really is a good fit for you if you aren't being your true authentic self, which is the beginning of vulnerability and intimacy. Again, we come back to, how can I let you see me if I don't really know who I am either? And you add the stress of a pandemic, and again, you've got true colors coming out, and we're left kind of looking at, who is this? You know, stress can really bring out the worst of us,
Hmm.
and it's important to be able to own it when we say, yeah, you know what, I maybe didn't have the opportunity to show even myself what it's like to deal with and cope with these situations that are so extreme as we have right now. The
Yeah.
political climate, it's all just very intense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
because all this stuff can change you, how you, like you said, how you handling stress, how you handling being without a job, and how is your wife handling being you without a
mm-hmm,
job, and the
mm-hmm,
struggling,
yeah,
if you guys have never struggled together before, and now you know, put into this situation and you're not used to it, that would, when you say that would be a great time to come out, or not necessarily come out of the house, because sometimes you can't, but to find a therapist that can help you through these different steps and obstacles and issues that you may be having.
absolutely. There's nothing like situations like this that really, I find it does one of two things. It either propels people to saying, oh man, I need help. This is way bigger than me. Or it people hold on to it and hold it in, and that won't work. Again, that beach ball is gonna come out one way or another,
Hmm.
sideways, so you have a choice. But asking for help is so, it has become in this kind of a situation where I think people are seeing they reach the end of themselves and where their own skill level is. And it's a matter of humility, being able to say, you know what, I'm going to try something different and see if maybe I can get some different results. Because we
Hmm.
all know doing the same thing over and over again is just the definition of insanity. We've
True.
got to be willing to try. And if
And you
I'm
should
working
be.
out and
Yeah.
trying to get my body to have changes, why would I would reach out to a personal trainer if I wasn't getting results?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as with a therapist. We're basically mental personal trainers or relational personal trainers, in that we really are just able to help you think of different ways and come up with different methods or possibilities to work through some of the obstacles that you're
Yeah.
facing.
Now, would you have some suggestions or some things you could say to a man? Because, we generally don't like therapy in the first place.
Hmm.
So, what would you tell the men that would help them come out or contact you to get the help that they may need and still keep their
Typically,
masculinity?
yeah, absolutely. I would say typically the main reason men reach out is because the women in their life are saying, if you don't, I'm out.
True.
Usually it has to get pretty bad for
Yeah.
men. I will say I'm working with way more men than I ever have before. So that shows me hope. And once they get in to working with the therapist and they see that it's not just about them lying on a couch talking about their, you know, biggest fears. We do that stuff, we do, but it also can be very much action oriented, which men tend to go towards. And I feel like once even if they just try it a couple of times, they see the benefit.
Hmm.
But in order to get, to get past that that threshold of I don't need help, or therapy is for people who are crazy is another big one I get. That if you just, I don't only go to a doctor when my arm is cut off. I go to doctors when things are maybe just a little out of sort, or I feel like I'm coming down with something. My physical doctor is the same as my mental doctor. I have my own therapist, just like a doctor would have their own doctor. It's important that we realize mental health and physical health, they go hand in hand. And there's no more shame in going to a therapist as there is in going to a doctor for your physical well-being. So I think the stigma is changing, but really it comes down to be brave, reach out, just give it a shot. Nothing is going to happen if you don't try something different. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting.
Right.
And if you aren't happy with what you got, you need to try something else.
And you're so correct. And I know we know that. It's just getting us to change, to take that extra step. But Tonya, unfortunately, and I'm really enjoying this conversation, that is going to be our time for today. But before we go, I want you to tell the audience how they can get in touch with you. And because I know there's some men out there that need your help, and we want to make sure that they can get in touch with you to get it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I most of my people come to me through referral base, so I don't do much marketing. I don't really need to. So the way that I tend to work with people is call me. It's 614-537-0014. You can also text that number if you are uncomfortable with calling. A lot of times people are most comfortable gathering information from a more detached sense of a text. You also can email me at olivebranch77@gmail.com. And the website is currently getting worked on to upgrade into the new kind of needs that it has with the expanding of telehealth. So that I will be putting on the resource page, and that will be another access point where people can get a hold of me. But I would say that the easiest way is via email, text, or calling me at those two places. And I also do have my LinkedIn profile, which is up there. And that's how you found me, Mike. So we have that available as well.
Okay. Yes. And we have, like you mentioned, your information be on our website when you go to the Father Show with MikeThompson.com and just click on resources, and you'll be able to find Tonya's information as well. And what state are you in?
Currently in Oregon, but
Okay.
I'm practicing in Ohio, and I also am getting licensed in New York and Arizona. The way it
Okay.
works with therapy is that you have to be licensed in the state where the client resides.
Okay.
So with this world the way it is, I'm trying to get licensed in as many states as possible
Wow.
so that I can help people regardless of where they're located.
Yeah.
Very handy and extremely helpful that we can do remote therapy.
Yeah. So when you go to the Father Show with MikeThompson.com and go on the resources, click on Oregon, and you'll find Tonya information. But all you have to do is play this tape, and you will find her information, because I will have it up here on the screen, so you'll be able to get all that information, and you'll know how to contact her as well. Because we want you to get the help that you may need and your family may need, so that you guys can stay together and enjoy your life. All right. Well, Tonya, thank you so much for joining us today on the Father Show, and it is really has been a pleasure having you. So I'm gonna close out the show, but don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today, and I want to really thank you for joining us. If you have, I know you're going to enjoy speaking with Tonya Coover. And Tonya is, I mean, she provided some great information, some stuff that I didn't know, and I know it's going to help me in the long run. So Thank you for joining us here on the Father Show today. And I want to let you know that if you need resources, please go to the Father Show with MikeThompson.com. Click on resources and you will find resources, and we're building it up so we can have resources in all 50 states. But the key to it is we don't have any cookies on the website. So you go get the information. Nobody know you've been there. You just get what you need, make the phone call you need to make, and get the help that you may need. That's all I care about. That's what I want you to have, the best life that you can have, and for you to be the best you that you can be. So don't forget, before you go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and send some likes and some shares. Share it with your friends and let them know that the Father Show is here. And you can watch this episode and others on our Facebook page, LinkedIn, iHeartRadio, Tubler, Spotify, Stitcher, and Twitter, and some other apps. So definitely check us out. You can listen to us while you're working out, or you can sit down and watch us here on the video. So thank you for joining us. It's been a blessing to have you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, God bless.